Thank you for listening to the Gateway to the Rockies podcast from Visit Aurora, from the rafters of the Stanley Marketplace. This is the show dedicated to telling the stories of Aurora, Colorado. Hi there, I'm Dave, Director of Marketing for Visit Aurora. Today we're stepping into one of Aurora's most iconic cultural spaces, the Aurora Fox Arts Center, a historic theater that's been telling the stories in our community for decades, and now it's entering an exciting new chapter. Our guest is Lisa Rigsby Peterson, a seasoned theater leader with more than 25 years of experience across Colorado's art scene. From the Lone Tree Arts Center to the Wheeler Opera House in Aspen, she's built a career at the intersection of creativity, community, and leadership, and now she's bringing that expertise to the Fox, at least for now. We'll get to that a little bit later. You grew up in New York, Lisa.
I was born in New York. I'm a native New Yorker, but traveled a lot and lived in Tunisia, lived in South Carolina, and then came to Colorado when I was a child and have spent the rest of my life here.
What was your experience with the arts growing up? Not only from, an audience standpoint, but leading it to a career.
My father was a visual artist, John David Rigsby, very active in the art scene here in Denver in the 70s and 80s. And we always had art on our walls. He was always listening to classical music. My mother was an amateur actress, and we went to theater and concerts, my brother and I, as we were growing up. So I've always been surrounded by the arts. I have no artistic talent. And so I thought, well, this is great. I'm excited about this in my life. And then in college, I took a class in arts management, and the scales fell from my eyes. Our instructor said, you can have a career helping to make the arts possible. And when that became clear as a career path, I said, that's it. That's my life.
I imagine that class wasn't your first impulse, though. There had to have been a spark of something that was like, oh, you know what? I'm interested in this industry.
Well, I hope it's the spark that everybody feels when they're in an audience. The lights go down, and there's so many memories I have, particularly of theater. And in high school, I saw a production of Hello, Dolly, and there was one of those moments where the goosebumps are on your arms and the audience is on its feet, and everyone was clapping and hollering. And I thought, if I could feel like this forever, wouldn't that be amazing? And I think that I have that, not necessarily to that extent, but that kind of experience anytime I see a live performance, and the thought that I could make that possible for other people who maybe hadn't experienced it before, or who were looking for that sort of experience in their life, that was what led me on the path to arts management and theater management.
Along with the magic of those moments when you're in an audience and you're immersed in the suspension of disbelief, is there also a part of you that is curious about how the sausage is made?
Yes, there's nothing I love more than being in rehearsals. And, in the theater, we often say that if you don't have a disaster final dress rehearsal, you're in trouble. And so I have seen my share of mishaps in those final dress rehearsals. And then the magic, as you refer to it, happens when the show opens.
You said college in a very general term, but your humility is showing. You have a Master of Fine Arts in Theater Management from Yale. What was that experience like, the Ivy League experience, particularly, I imagine, what was a very competitive and inspiring environment?
Incredibly inspiring, and it's the Yale School of Drama, so it's a graduate school at Yale University. And people here will understand this when I say the Yale School of Drama, when I attended, was like the Emily Griffith Opportunity School. It was not an academic program. It was, we have a working theater, we have playwrights and artists and actors, and we worked for 3 full years. And so it really was a job training program, as opposed to theoretically, let's talk about what the arts mean. We did have a drama, intro to drama class, so there were some academics involved, but it was really about working. It's a very small school. There were 180 students, and just working together, creating art and learning from some of the best in the industry.
So how do you go from a foot in the industry to leadership? Can you connect those dots for me?
Yes. I mean, I think part of it has to do with what your interest is. Yeah. Some people are really interested in fundraising and in development. Some people are really interested in stage management. Some people are interested in marketing. For me, I was really interested in helping to be the conduit for artists to create amazing work. And so the path that was available to me then was in being a manager of a venue or an organization. And I think that when you know what your passion is, particularly in arts management, then you know what the path is. You can begin in a department, in a development department. I've worked in development departments, and in many ways, you begin learning from the people who are around you, and the more expertise you have and the experience you have, then you either grow to that position at your organization or you find a different organization.
What are the things that keep the fire lit, and what's the minutia that you wish you could jettison from your plate?
Oh, what a great question. What keeps my fire lit? There are two things. The people I work with, the incredible team that I've joined at the Fox, knowing especially in the arts and theater in particular, you are almost always working with a staff smaller than you need. And to see the passion and the commitment of the people you're working alongside is really important. And then we get the chance every time we have a show, the lights go down and we get to watch what we've helped make possible for our audiences. And so that's a spark night after night after night. In terms of the minutia, I will say, oh gosh, it's reporting.
Yeah.
You know, our plates are so full doing our work, and then when we have to stop and tell other people about the work we're doing or what we've done, that can sometimes weigh you down. I
can identify with that more than you know. You've worked with organizations like the Denver Center for the Performing Arts and Family Theater Company. How did those experiences influence your perspective, particularly when it comes to accessibility and representation in the arts?
That is a great question. And one of the things I'm really happy over my career to reflect on is that I've worked for very small organizations like Curious Theater Company. I've worked with Family Theater Company and very large organizations, the Denver Center for the Performing Arts, and for a medium-sized organization, the Lone Tree Arts Center. And one of the things that became apparent over my career is that when you're in a smaller organization, I sort of liken it to being maybe a cigarette boat. Like if you need to change or there's an opportunity to meet a community need, you can do that really quickly. If you're at an institution or a very large organization, it takes a lot longer to get people to embrace and buy into the programs that you're proposing. So in terms of accessibility, not only accessibility for artists and audience members, but also for audiences who've never been invited before. That's always been a passion of mine. I will say that one of the things I'm very proud of in my career, partly motivated by my experience watching family performers and watching family shows, was creating at the Lone Tree Arts Center one of the metro area's first sensory-friendly programs. Oh. So we created programs where we invited people with intellectual or developmental disabilities and their families to come to the theater. And these were people who were historically, traditionally discouraged from coming because they could be I'm using air quotes, distraction to the rest of the audience. And to see the effect on the artists and those families really cemented for me how important accessibility was for people who have not felt welcomed before.
What excited you most about stepping into this role at the Aurora Fox at this particular moment in history?
Well, I've attended so many shows at the Fox, and I love the work that's done there. I will say anyone you talk to who worked at an organization through the pandemic and fought to either keep a theater open, reopen it, figure out what was next, that sort of baptism by fire made me even more aware of how important community-based work and continuing on despite the challenges was going to be. And I think that for the Aurora Fox, located where it is, in the community where we are, which has the opportunity to embrace and be embraced by so many different kinds of audience members and organizations, that it's not a challenge, it's an opportunity. That was so exciting for me. I've always loved theater, and so the fact that the Fox produces great theater was also a big draw for me.
Season 41, you hit the ground running. What are you excited about this year?
Well, I'm really excited about Fat Ham, which is running right now through April 19th. It's a tremendous production. And the thing that I've really been struck by is how varied and exciting our program offerings are. We are partnering with Family Theater Company for Violet, which is a musical that will happen a little bit later this spring. And then in the fall, we have it's kind of like a gothic tale. It's called Feeding Beatrice. I'm not going to give any plot details away, but it's a little creepy and very exciting.
All right.
And that'll come in the fall. And then for the holidays, often the Aurora Fox does a non-traditional holiday show. And so we'll be doing Hank Williams' Lost Highway. So the life and music of Hank Williams. And I'm equally excited about all of them because they're so, so different.
You've worked with nonprofit entities in the private sector. You've worked with municipality-run entities as well. What are the differences and the challenges in navigating those waters for you?
Well, obviously, if you're working in commercial theater, you live and die by the balance sheet, and so it's really, really hard, particularly in the commercial sector, because in order to make any money, the ticket prices you have to charge are really out of reach for most people. In the nonprofit sector, I think that there are great opportunities to be very specific about the work that you do. So Family is very specific in its work. Curious is very specific in its work, doing contemporary, regional, and world premieres. In a municipal setting, I think I'm really comfortable in this setting and probably enjoy it more than any other I've been in, because you have an opportunity to understand what your community is and what needs aren't being met in the community, and figure out how, as a theater or an arts center, you might be able to help solve some of your community problems. And of course, from a practical perspective, there are resources available as a municipal facility that aren't available to other organizations. But I will say that what I have loved in my previous municipal positions, and the promise I think here at the City of Aurora, is there are either problems or opportunities that the arts can help further the conversation about or help to begin solving. And particularly as we're sort of across the street from the People's Building, and 1400 Dallas has just opened just a couple of blocks away, ACAD, there's an opportunity for us to make a difference all along that Colfax corridor. And I think it's the power of the city and the community behind us making those differences.
Yeah, you've been in the community now for the last couple of months, maybe even a little bit less than that. What are your initial impressions of the opportunity of the community?
Well, having been in the metro area for so long, of course, I'm aware of the growth of the city of Aurora and the diversification. And one of the things that really excites me is the opportunity to learn more about all of the cultures that make up, as we call it, the mosaic of Aurora. And I have spent time at Mango House, and I've had a chance to think about who are our constituents and what are the programs we may think about that might help serve them. What are the partnerships that we can enter into? I think, East Colfax is its own entity, and it is vibrant in a very unusual way. I think that the opportunity for us to be located right there in the heart of the historic downtown of Aurora, provides great opportunity for us.
You've been tasked with assessing the Aurora Fox's operations, helping to shape its future. What are some of the first things that you're looking at when evaluating the Fox in its current state and its ongoing chapters?
Well, I think there's some pretty traditional metrics. If you look at attendance, you look at the number of performances, what's the variety of programming that any incoming director or leader would do with an organization. I think the things that I'm really interested in over the next few months as we look forward are the same, are answers to the same questions that I think any arts organization asked itself after COVID, which is, why are we here? We don't need to be who we were in 2019. And for most organizations, we can't be. There are just different trends in attendance. There are different interests and different needs. And so exploring what partnerships might be possible, talking to, as I mentioned, the terrific staff at the Fox. What's worked before? What dreams have you had? What dreams have our patrons had about what might be possible here? So really thinking about those things, and also talking to the community, whether it's the Arts and Culture Commission for the city, whether it's focus groups of patrons, focus groups of neighbors, just really getting as much input as possible to say, if the Fox were the perfect beacon with that marquee on Colfax Avenue, what would happen inside it? What would be happening in that building?
This feels like a very day one question in, I don't know, civics class or art school or whatever, but why are the arts important for a community? And in particular, why is it important, especially in a time when, budgets are being analyzed and cut and scrutinized, to the nth degree? Why is it important that communities invest in cultural arts?
That is a profound question, and I love it. And I think, that's our charge as artists and as people in the arts community. I think that the arts are important in every way, as they have been since literally the beginning of civilization. I mean, some of the ways we date how we've begun is through paintings, cave paintings. And we know in mythology and in the Iliad and the Odyssey, there are stories. And Joseph Campbell talks about all of these origin myths and this sort of thing. And I think even though we all have new stories, many of the themes of them are the same over history. And so to be able to tell stories to each other, no matter what the topic is, it allows us to feel more human. And I think when we gather people together, particularly in a small, intimate theater like the Fox, when we're all together in a room and we're either addressing hard topics that are challenging, or we're laughing because we have a comedy, or we're enjoying music, even those 200 people experiencing the same thing and sharing that emotion, you hope that when they leave the doors of the Fox and they go back to wherever they've come from, that they take some of that spirit with them. So I think investing in the arts is particularly important because obviously here in the United States, there are so many nonprofits because there's a tradition of philanthropy. We're fortunate that we have we are part of the city of Aurora, so we have that funding. But without it, there's really not an option for supporting artists in the way they need to be supported. And some of these lessons I learned from my father, who said that an artist's work should be as important as a baker's or a builder's, that all of these things make your community and make your home or the place you do business a place that feels rich, that you want to be a part of or return to. And so I think that the arts matter, artists matter, and the opportunity at places like the Fox is to be able to bring the need and the resources together.
It's an important vehicle of expressing people and our culture and our stories. Right. And even beyond that, it's an economic driver, right? I mean, people will use transportation to come to the Stanley Marketplace and have dinner and then go to a show at the Aurora Fox Arts Center. It's an important economic driver as well, even beyond the artistry. I imagine that's another level that you're tasked with, I guess, optimizing. How do you approach that in the face of a competitive dollar? People being able to choose how they want to spend their money. Right. I think talking about how special the experience is and how unique it is. And if I may add on to my answer from before, I think the other thing that the arts allow us to do is have really hard conversations that are not conversations that are adversarial or of conflict. And so in a time now when everything is politicized and people take sides and corners and try and figure things out just from their own perspective, the opportunity for the arts is to provide a way to communally and collectively talk
talk about those things. Of course, there is the monetary component, right? How do you make sure that you are investing your dollars wisely? How do you create programs so that people come in the door so you have more money to do what you're doing so well in the future? One of the things I'll say about the Fox and where we are in the city of Aurora is I think affordability, particularly of our tickets, is really, really important. You're not going to pay $125 to see a show at the Aurora Fox. And for many people in today's economic strain, it means they can still engage in the arts where they might not be able to do it in other places.
And I will scream this from the rooftop of this very building. You're going to see an incredibly quality production, from the settings on the stage to the acting to the music. You have members of our community who are these performers, but these are world-class performers, and I can say that with complete confidence.
They're astounding. I think our company of Fat Ham is particularly great, and the production is really wonderful. It's a regional premiere of a Pulitzer Prize winning play. And I think it's a great demonstration of exactly what you've just said. We've got great designers. We've got a great cast. We've got a great director in Danielle Betts, who's had a long history with the Aurora Fox. And that professional quality and making sure that when the audience comes in, they're going to have an experience that's really memorable and remarkable is one of the hallmarks of what happens on our stage.
Aurora's diversity is its strength. It's the beautiful thing about this community, and it's a priority in everything that we do at Visit Aurora. Our mantra is our story, our way, meaning we want the people who live and work here to tell the story of Aurora, Colorado. I imagine at the Aurora Fox, there's a similar sentiment, being one of the most diverse cities in the country, definitely the most diverse in Colorado. I imagine it's a priority to see that diversity reflected in the offerings at the Fox and also those who participate in those performances or those, what do they call it? Productions.
That's right. Yes. Absolutely. I think that, again, when you look back to what do we mean to our community, everyone in a community wants to see itself reflected in the work that's done there. And so for audiences to come into the Fox and see themselves represented on stage is critical. I think that, the unique opportunity at the Fox is to say, look at all of the rich traditions that we can begin examining and see how do we reflect some of that on the stage. One of my first questions was who are Aurora's sister cities? I know that we've got many sister cities. Mm-hmm. Is there a way for us to collaborate and celebrate some of those partnerships? Is there a way for us to really lift up the artists, the residents, the food, just the experience of all of these communities that make Aurora such an amazing place?
Again, this is probably an unfair question with, your recency in the role, but what does success look like? What does 2027 and beyond look like in your view for a successful campaign and a robust future for the Aurora Fox?
I've always said no matter what organization I'm working for, that we want everyone who comes into our doors, through our doors, to want to come back, whether that is the audience, the artists, rental clients, you name it. And so I think success for the Aurora Fox 2027, but also what is today? The 8th
April 9th.
The 9th of April, starting tomorrow, April 10th, that when people come in, they feel welcome and they feel like this is a place for me, and they feel pride, and they are either surprised or moved by the experience they have in our small building for 2 hours. And so I think from a general perspective, success would be increased programming, that we have a diversity of programming. We do theater. Perhaps there are other things we can add to the mix, whether it's with rental partners or through work that we're presenting ourselves. But giving people an opportunity an invitation to come into our doors and making a compelling case that they're going to come in our doors and an hour or 2 hours later, they're going to leave a little different.
The Aurora Fox Arts Theater, the building itself stands as a historical landmark, probably the most identifiable historical landmark in Aurora. And that history is pertinent, it's poignant, it's important. That said, you're also tasked with how do we attract a new audience? How do we also stay on the cutting edge? How do we embrace innovation as well? How do you compete for a new audience that has this computer in their hand 24 hours a day that's also vying for their attention? How do you attract the new audience? How do you welcome in young people in particular? And how do you get them excited about coming to live local theater?
It's an interesting question. And I would say that over the last 2.5 weeks, watching our audiences come in for Fat Ham particularly, we have a lot of young audience members. And I think my experience has been they react to programming. So if there's something that sounds really interesting, they are very willing to give things a chance. The experience they have once they sort of engage in whatever that is critical. Do they feel welcome? Do they feel like, oh, I learned something, or I got my money's worth? Just that, and do they feel a sense of belonging? And I think I think that's one of the critical factors. When you come in to see a show, you don't want to feel like an island in the audience. You want to feel as if I'm one of however many people are sitting here, and together we're experiencing this, so that at intermission, you turn to the person who's sitting next to you that you don't know and say, oh my God, isn't this wonderful? Or after the show, you share a smile, or you wait for an artist to talk to them. And so making that experience great for them is really important. And programming is also the other critical part of that.
For somebody who maybe, let's say a student shadowed you for a day, what would surprise them most about what it takes to run a theater?
Well, right now, how many meetings you have to have, I think, and it's just the introduction. I think one of the things that might surprise people is how emotionally intelligent you have to be, because there are always crises of some kind.
Yeah.
A set piece isn't working. Someone has a conflict. There are deadlines that are missed. There's always something that feels like it could derail you. And so being able to be calm, I think that's really critical, calm, and lead through crisis, lead through conflict, lead through tension by focusing everyone on the mission, right? This is what we're here for. And I think that that's really, really important. It may not be surprising. I've developed it over many years, right? I do think that it's the thing that might be surprising is just how deep the business part of it is. People think, oh, the actors show up, they rehearse, and then you do the show. Right. Well, we have to order popcorn. We have to order wine. We have to order ticket stock. We've got social media posts. We've got to create the flyers. It's a business, and
absolutely.
There are so many different aspects to it.
Do you have a quick tale of a favorite crisis that, in hindsight, you can now look back and laugh on, but in the moment was, OMG, I don't know if we're going to make it through this?
Well, some I can't tell.
That's fair.
Some have to do with outdoor programming. That's a whole nother beast. And maybe that's just a great example. We at the Lone Tree Arts Center, there's a small outdoor amphitheater, and in the summertime we programmed concerts there. And it was a beautiful summer night. The first half of the concert was wonderful. I was standing in the back, and I was feeling so great. I just took my shoes off because I'm thinking the audience loves it. The artists are having a great time. And the back part of the theater is a grass lawn. And about 5 minutes into the second half of the concert, I just heard this psh.
Oh, no.
And I looked out of the corner of my eye, and I saw 250 people jump to their feet because the sprinkler system had come on the lawn. And we ran. We had to find the water shut off. We finally figured it out. We were getting all the bar towels out so that people could dry themselves off. And afterwards, and then someone had a medical emergency in the middle of it, and we had to say, is there a doctor in the house? Afterwards, I was talking to one of the performers, and he said to me, it was so weird because we thought, gosh, it's raining back on the back section of the theater, but it's not raining here. Well, Colorado's pretty strange. So we can laugh about it now, but that was pretty stressful, I will say.
I can imagine. I can absolutely imagine. We can cut this part out of the episode if you don't want to address this, but you are interim by title now, and very much still learning the ropes and creating your vision and recommendation and all of that. But I'm going to go there nonetheless. Is this something that you could potentially, hopefully, see yourself transitioning to full-time, or is this predominantly an advisory situation for you?
You know, I think it's a dual position right now. Part of it is advisory. Part of it is we need to do the work of the theater, and alongside a great staff, that's one of my major charges in the beginning. I think that it's, and I'm not trying to be evasive, I think that one of the reasons that I am here working at the Aurora Fox is to make sure that we keep on keeping on, but also what is the Fox meant to be for our community? And without knowing what the answer to that is in next year and beyond, it's hard to know what that role might be. And I am loving my time here. I love the theater. I love the work. I love the people I'm working with. And anytime you have a situation like that, you don't want it to end. But I'm realistic that part of what happens on January 1st, 2027 has to do with who we're going to be moving forward. And so that's to come. We've already started conversations internally about who are we? What are the needs we're serving? What can we be? Those conversations will happen on a wider level, on a community level with our patrons, members of our commission, members of our community. And I hope that together we envision a future for the Fox that is very exciting, very dynamic, very promising. And if there's a place for me to continue in that, I'd love the opportunity.
If you're looking for a world-class theater experience without the world-class theater prices, you want to support local artists following their passions, go to a show at the Aurora Fox Arts Center. I promise you're going to absolutely love it. You're going to be enamored not only with the building, but with the production. And I can say that with full confidence because I myself am one of these converts. Lisa Rigsby Peterson, interim manager of operations at the Aurora Fox Arts Center. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your expertise. Thank you for your vision. And really excited to see what's going on at the Aurora Fox in season 41.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Make sure you check out the offerings at aurorafoxartscenter.org and follow along on social media at the Aurora Fox.
Thank you for listening to the Gateway to the Rockies podcast. Visit Aurora is the official destination marketing organization for the city of Aurora, Colorado, and acts as the primary liaison between meeting planners and hotel partners. As Aurora's Convention and Visitors Bureau, Visit Aurora's mission is grounded in showcasing Aurora as a premier destination for meetings, business, and leisure travel. Visit Aurora represents more than 75 plus hotel properties with 13,500 plus guest rooms and more than 1 million square feet of meeting space, including Colorado's largest resort, Gaylord Rockies Resort and Convention Center. As Colorado's third largest city, Aurora is located minutes away from Denver International Airport and showcases mountain views, memorable meeting spaces, and 250 plus international eateries that offer a unique experience for each and every visitor. As the gateway to the Rockies, Visit Aurora's role in the local community goes beyond marketing the city as a destination. The Visit Aurora team is here to assist you with your Colorado visit, from facilitating your meeting, event, or convention to helping you discover local flavor and attractions. Go beyond the boardroom in Aurora, Colorado. For more, visit us at visitaurora.com.